Welcome to the Trend Micro Deep Security video series. My name is Nick Russo, and I'm a customer service engineer on the hybrid cloud support team. The purpose of this video is to provide customers with information and tips about migrating from an on-premise deployment to our Deep Security as a Service product. The concepts covered here can also be applied to moving to other cloud-based deployments, but we will specifically be covering the DSaaS product. We'll go over a few prerequisites, syncing existing workloads with DSaaS, some of the exportable information from your on-premise Deep Security Manager, and the differences in the deployment script and activation. Before following any of the steps in this video, it's recommended that you establish your Deep Security as a Service account. You also want to make sure you have the appropriate information needed to synchronize your workloads with the manager. There's also a list of URLs, IP addresses, and ports used by Deep Security that need to be reachable from your environment. I've included a link in the video description to an article that outlines this information in detail. We'll now review the synchronization of workloads with Deep Security as a Service. Similar to the on-premise deployment of Deep Security, we have the ability to pull in a list of machines from different sources including AWS, Azure, and VMware vCloud. For this demonstration, we're going to stick with AWS. In my on-premise DSM, I have my AWS account already synced, and you can see the list of machines from my account here. If I switch over to my DSaaS manager, I have no machines currently listed. I'll hover over Computers and click on Add AWS Account. With DSaaS, I have a few options for syncing. With the quick option, I can log into my AWS in a separate tab and use the CloudFormation process to sync my account. For this video, we're going to use the advanced option. Using the advanced option, I can use a cross-account role, or I can use AWS access keys. I'll input my access key ID and secret access key and click Next. The sync takes place, and I now have my AWS machines listed in the DSaaS DSM. Next, we'll take a look at some of the information that can be exported from your on-premise DSM and moved over to the DSaaS manager. If you have workstations that are not synchronized from AWS, Azure, or vCloud, you can use the export feature from the Computers page to extract that information. Once imported to the DSaaS manager, they can have a policy assigned and you can activate them. We'll cover that process in just a few minutes. As far as configuration items go, you have the ability to export then import items like policies, firewall rules, IPS rules, integrity monitoring rules, log inspection rules, and different lists used for configuring protection modules, as well as malware scan configurations. If I go over to my DSaaS manager, I can go to Policies, click New, and choose the option to import the policy XML file I exported. The same goes for the other configuration items I mentioned. Now that we've covered how to move configuration information over to your DSaaS manager, let's review the deployment script and activation process for DSaaS as well as agent-related steps to follow when you're ready to migrate them to the new manager. The deployment script from Deep Security as a Service has a couple of additional pieces of information in it, mainly related to activation. To identify the manager you're activating against, there's a tenant ID and token that's added in the activation line after the URL for the DSaaS manager. You'll notice that the agent is also activated over port 443 when using DSaaS. At this point, we're ready to reset an agent so that it can be activated against the DSaaS manager. Before doing so, you want to make sure you have a good record of policies assigned to agents so that after activation, the same policy can be applied to your machines. To reset the agent, I'm going to log into the machine and fire up a command prompt. I'll change directory to the install directory for the Deep Security Agent software. I'll run the DSA control command with the -R switch. This command will reset the agent and allow us to activate it to a new manager. If you have the agent protection option enabled for your agents, you can either disable this from the policy or computer settings before resetting, or use the -P switch followed by your agent protection password. After running the command, I should see an HTTP 200 message indicating the reset was successful. After resetting the agent, I can now use the DSA control command with the -A switch, followed by a couple of additional parameters. I'll include the URL for the DSaaS manager with the port, as well as the tenant ID and token, and the policy ID for which I want the agent to have applied after activation. This information was all pulled from the deployment script in my Deep Security as a Service manager. After running this command, the agent is now activated and controlled by the DSaaS manager. The reset and activation scripts could be used with the orchestration tool of your choice to automate these tasks, so that you don't have to manually run the same command from each machine. We've completed the process of migrating workloads, different configuration components, and agents from my on-premise manager to the DSaaS manager successfully. If you have any questions about any of the steps of this process, or would like assistance with completing a migration similar to this with our professional services team, feel free to reach out to our support team and we'd be glad to help. Make sure to check out the links in the description for additional information related to this video. Thanks for watching.